and players smiling.
But Michael Jordan is not only the best basketball player, but he's the most exciting basketball player to ever play.
Tatum fires away, pumps it in, 51 for Jason Tatum.
The Big Three NBA podcast is powered by PrizePicks and the GameTime app.
Happy New Year, everyone. This is the Big Three NBA podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Kwani Lunis, joined by the usual crew, Sherrod Blakely and Gary Washburn. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Kwani. Happy New Year,
I'm in
Gary.
the full spirit with my Happy New Year headgear.
Happy New Year, folks.
No one else got the memo, clearly.
Happy 2025.
Kind of awkward.
Yeah, it's good to see 2025.
It is. It's a blessing.
It really is. It really is. So now, what are folks having for dinner today? Because I'm in that hungry mood.
What are your traditions, Gary? Do you have any food traditions for the new year?
No, not really. Not really. I don't, some people say black eyed peas.
Mm-hmm.
You always have those on New Year's Eve, but don't really have any new traditions. A lot of those are unfortunately our generations kind of blew them joints, because when we grew up, there was a lot of traditions.
Yeah.
Growing up for what that, especially black eyed peas. They said always have black eyed peas to bring in the new year for good luck. But our generation didn't kill a lot of the good old traditions that we used to have, our families used to have. So no, I don't have any like food traditions.
Yeah.
Well, I still got black eyed peas that cook on New Year's Eve and eat throughout New Year's Day. And it goes back to, the premise behind it is just for good luck. Black eyed peas and collard greens. And I love New Year's Day because I love black eyed peas. Facts.
Black eyed peas are underrated as a food.
They are so underrated. They only get props this time of year. This is literally the only time you ever hear about black eyed peas, but them joints are good, yo.
Yeah. Similarly, so I'm Haitian. You guys probably have heard this a billion times.
Wait, what? Kwani?
Yeah,
what?
I know. Breaking news. I'm Haitian American. But every year on January 1st, we eat soup jumu, which is like a pumpkin or squash kind of equivalent. But the reason why we eat the soup or drink the soup is because during the enslaved period for the French, Haitians weren't allowed to eat specifically that vegetable called jumu. But when they freed themselves from the French, they decided to make like a pot of that in addition to like a lot of the other root vegetables that were in the area, because, the country is at war. Which a good tidbit my dad just pointed out to me yesterday, because I didn't think about the fact that all of those vegetables were things you could find underground, which kind of preserve the freshness of it. Mm-hmm. So we make a pot of soup, usually a family, my aunt actually makes it for us. She'll make a big pot and everyone comes to her house and gets it and you drink it all day. So for us, it's not only a sign of freedom, obviously, because of January 1st, it is a way to bring in the new year as well, which I kind of appreciate. When I was younger, I hated it because I was like, I want cereal for breakfast. Why am I eating soup all day?
But now Captain Crunch.
No, seriously. But now that I know the significance, I'm like, why was I such a brat? Like, this is actually very powerful when you think about the journey it took to just eat or drink this meal on a regular basis. So
yeah, it goes back to what Gary was saying about just traditions and just how they're, kind of cast aside and looked past by lots, not just your generation, but even ours. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are people my age who look at me like, black eyed peas? Why would you eat black eyed peas? I'm just like, why do you not eat black eyed peas? What you talking about, Willis? Mm-hmm. So
I think learning the significance helps. And like you said, Gary, like learning the history of certain traditions, I think can keep them alive if people are willing to.
And I'm always down to eat some different food I haven't had before. So
I gotta get y'all some soup jumu.
Like chimichangas on Thanksgiving. Sure.
Oh my gosh.
but you don't need to bring that up. But
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Nachos on Thanksgiving. Turkey nachos.
I hate him.
A Mexican Thanksgiving with Sherrod Blakely.
Si, senor and senorita.
God.
All right. Well, now that we've got the traditions out the way, let's move on to the Celtics. Oh my gosh. The Celtics, they beat Toronto 125-71. That was the second largest margin of victory in Celtics history. Jason Tatum had 23 points, 8 rebounds. Derek White with 16 points, 4 blocks. Peyton Pritchard, 19 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals. But let's just get right into the pick and roll really quickly. Are the Celtics back to last year's mode, or was this just one of those good Celtics games? Pick one, and why are you rolling with it?
Good Celtics game. They ain't back. They ain't back. They are not that crew anymore. And even though they've got a lot of the personnel back from that team, obviously, this is a completely different team because you've got so many players in completely different roles than they had a year ago. And the thing that's I think is a factor now more than it was a year ago is health. You've had more guys in and out, not with long-term injuries, but just there seems to be a few more bumps and bruises along the way. I don't remember, Drew Holiday being in and out as much as we've seen him this year. Sam Hauser, who, didn't play a ton of minutes, at least you knew he was available and healthy to play, has not been nearly as healthy or as available to play at the level that he's used to. And Peyton Pritchard, he's the best scoring backup in the NBA so far. And that's a very different role than what he had a year ago. And with that different role comes a different set of responsibilities and expectations. And when he's had, a stretch where he wasn't knocking down shots, all of a sudden that's a big deal now. Whereas last year it'd been like, he ain't supposed to play a bunch of minutes anyway. So if he's missing some shots, he's just missing some shots. So this team isn't quite where they were a year ago because they're a different kind of team, but also they play like someone who's won a championship before, who knows that they don't necessarily have to go hard every night to win. The problem with that is on those nights when the shots ain't falling and you're not defending at a high level, you're going to get that head crack, or you're going to at least be in position where you're not going to be as dominant as you should be. And we've seen that this year. They lost more home games before the calendar year flipped, than they did all of last season. And then one of the reasons why, and a lot of those games have been the teams that they should be absolutely smashing. I mean, you should not be losing, to some of these undermanned teams who are undermanned in terms of healthy bodies and undermanned in terms of talent relative to yours. So no, this team, this was a good win and certainly one of the better wins, and their defense had a lot to do with it. But this team, they ain't back. We're gonna find out on this upcoming road trip where they at. But right now, nah, they're not that team, not yet.
Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, I do agree with Sherrod here.
It's 2025, Gary. You're getting the year off on the right foot.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. I think there was a nice game, but Toronto was severely shorthanded. No R.J. Barrett, no Emmanuel Quigley, no Grady Dick. They were in their complete rebuild. They're trying to get a lottery pick. Toronto's and just trying to figure things out. They won one road game all year. They're on an 11-game losing streak, so you should beat them. Now by 54 points was a nice victory. The third quarter was unbelievable. 10 3-pointers. They scored 45 points after scoring 45 the first half. But this team has a lot to work on, and the question is, how do you want to judge them? If you want to judge them on being a very good top 5 team, then they're fine. If you want to judge them on competing with Oklahoma City and Cleveland, and then they need to work on some things, because right now Oklahoma City and Cleveland are beginning to lap the field. Cleveland is for real. Okay, I think they're 29-4. They're 5 games up on the Celtics. They won at Golden State. Then last night, won against the Lakers. Like, they're winning games by double digits. They blew out the Warriors and Golden State. Like, this team is for real, and they're going to go out there and probably get another addition to their team in terms of maybe a wing defender. So, because I'm sure their management is saying, this is our year. Like, who's going, like, the Celtics, they had already lost 9 games. We can beat them in the series. So the Celtics going to have to ramp up. And I think it's a situation, one, they had a bad December, right? 8-6, most of those games at home. And, most of those games, a couple of games against Detroit, Sherrod's team, like games they should have won. They lost to Orlando. They lost at home to Memphis. They lost to the Sixers, who are still well under 500, although they're playing better. But the thing is, the Celtics going to have to just get it together. Like Sherrod said, injuries have made a difference, but they're still not where they need to be. Their defense needs to be consistently better. They've got to figure out other ways to score when the 3 isn't going down. and they can't keep settling for threes. And people think, oh, you hate threes. I don't hate threes, but I think that they've been chasing threes of late, and their whole roster besides Pritchard and even Hauser, but Hauser's gone through a slump. The rest of the guys shooting threes are below their season averages or career averages. Drew before yesterday was at 29%. Jalen, Al Horford still scuffling from three. He was, I think, 0 for 6 yesterday. I think he was 0 for 8. Like, he's still scuffling from three. So the guys who are usually making shots are not making shots. And when that's happening, you got to find other ways to win. And it can't just be keep taking threes, because if you look at the Indiana game, the loss, they cut it to 2. It's like, okay, here we go. Then they don't score for 4 minutes. And in that stretch, they missed 5 threes. So you got to get to the free throw line. You got to get to the paint. You got to attack the rim. There's other things you have to do when shots aren't falling. It's all good and beautiful and roses when those threes are going down. They're unstoppable. But what happens when they don't? And I think teams, as I asked Drew Holiday yesterday, he said teams are becoming more physical with them. Mm-hmm. And teams are like, yeah, take that 3. Go ahead. You struggling. Go ahead. Like, teams are not daunted by the Celtics taking 53s anymore, right? And so when you're first in the league in attempts and 15th in makes, that's a problem. If you're going to take the most, you don't necessarily have to make the most, but you got to be top 3, 4, 5 in order to play the type of basketball you want and to blow teams out. And, and they're still good. High point differential. I mean, they won by 54 points yesterday. That's the second all-time. But to me, they are not back. And this road trip, as Sherrod said, again, I guess I'm agreeing with him. My goodness.
New year, new Gary.
2025. I don't like the way this year is getting started. Can we go back to 2015 when I didn't like Sherrod at all? Anyway.
I hate this dude.
When they're going to find out on this road trip, and they need to, they need help. You got to have Drew Holiday in there, get Porzingis back, but they also got to play better defense, more passionate defense, getting deflections, their hands on, passes. They got to want this. And again, what Sherrod said, like, the defending champion, sometimes motivation can be hard, right? And I think we'll see with this road heavy January where they go to the West Coast, they play the Mavericks, they play Oklahoma City a couple of days, they play Minnesota tomorrow, Houston, Ime's and them got them boys playing well. So a real tough road. We'll talk about that, but no, they are not back. But I guess it was a good sign. I will say New Year's Eve win was a good sign.
Well, let me ask you this, Gary, because you just brought it up, and I want you to talk a little bit more about their defense. Again, Toronto was missing some key pieces. I get that, but it just seemed that there were things that they were able to do defensively against Toronto that were reminiscent of what we've seen a year ago and what we've seen in the past when they've been really, really good. Why do you think they've had so much trouble kind of just basically bringing that aspect of their game back on a consistent basis, and that is being an elite team defensively? Because they've been good, but they have not been elite with what we've seen in the past.
Well, I think to me, it's a lack of a rim protector. So if you look at guys like Tyrese Maxey and Tyrese Halliburton, they were getting into the paint at will. So they're driving to the paint, either passing, hitting the floater, or getting to the free throw. There's too many. Look at the Bulls game with Ayo Dosunmu, who was just gashing them. The one they lost in Boston, gashing them, getting to the rim. Like, they don't have, and with Porzingis is not really asserted himself defensively yet. He's also not been in the lineup consistently. Has not had that rim protection. They don't have a rim protector. They just don't. Like, you could say Porzingis when he's on the floor could be, but the rest of their guys, like Kornet, is not. No one's afraid of Kornet. Al Horford isn't the pick and roll defender he once was, and is not. He can get a block shot, but he's not that rim protector. And then Kata can be, but they're still with him at that lack of trust level. Like, he'll make some mistakes and they'll pull him, And then, it's like, do you want, they got to figure out what to do with him, because I think Kornet has had some decent stretches, but there's also stretches where he has bad hands. He doesn't catch alley-oops well, so that limits his ability to score at the rim. They'll throw him the ball, then he'll take it down, and then look like, no, dude, dunk on somebody. You're 7 foot. Like, dunk. If you get blocked, you just get blocked. Dunk on somebody. Put it on somebody's head. So to me, the lack of rim protection, and then sometimes just the lack of focus. As I wrote, there was a one play against Indiana where they went into a zone. Al was late to figure out that they were in a zone. By the time he looks up, Biddick Matheran's got the ball at the three-point line, just hits a three where he should have been out there contesting that. Mm-hmm. Like, it's communication. It's sometimes lack of focus. Sometimes, our shot, the three missed. Oh, man, I missed that three. Oh, and then teams are just taking it right back down the floor and get the transition bucket because you're tripping about missing an open three. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're going to miss so many threes, you got to be locked in on the other side of the ball and be able to stop teams, because you're going to have to win games ugly. Like the Celtics, if you look at the NBA Finals, everybody comes at me, they won last year with threes. Look at the NBA Finals against Dallas. They did not win that series with 3-point shots. They won that series with defense. Mm-hmm. I think they shot 33% from three in that series. That was not a great 3-point shooting series for the Celtics for the playoffs. Like, they won the playoffs by shutting Dallas down and winning ugly. Right? That's how they're going to have to win some of these games. They're going to be great games where they, like second half, yesterday, where they just splashing threes and they're just putting teams away. That opener against the Knicks, where they just pounded them that's going to happen, but not like it probably people think it's going to happen as often. They're going to have to win some games ugly. This team got to get grimy, as Sherrod, one of Sherrod's favorite words. This team's got to get grimy, tough, die for loose balls. Like, there was even a play yesterday where, like, the ball's on the floor and, like, Jalen reached for it. Like, man, die for it. Like, you're going to have to get grimy, and maybe it's going to happen toward April when the playoffs are coming. But we could see, if they don't, there's going to be a lot of, potential L's, especially on this upcoming road trip.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, Gary, when you defend at a high level, even when you're struggling to make shots, you're still going to stay in control of the game. You look at the Toronto game first quarter, they shot 33% from the field, which is not great. And yet they had a double-digit lead because they were so good at the defensive end of the floor that their shooting struggles were negated by the fact that they were such dominant at the other end of the floor. But certainly, the Celtics, they still, at the end of the day, managed to get a win, a comfortable win. And let's be real, we all like to win. And speaking of winning, I want to give a quick shout out to one of our good partners, PrizePicks, which is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks, which is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. And with basketball season is starting to heat up, PrizePicks is the best place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports teams. Again, you can win up to 1,000 times your money in PrizePicks. They offer weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Every Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player participations up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. Just sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Again, it's the best place to win real money this basketball season. It's just awesome. Even when you don't have players that, like, for example, even when you have players who are a late game scratch, PrizePicks takes care of you, so you're not penalized for that. I had Jordan Poole, ready to roll for one game because Jordan Poole has been kind of rolling, and then he was a late game scratch, and I did not lose out on that opportunity because PrizePicks, again, they built that into their structure as far as dealing with players who are injured or late game scratches. So if you want in, here's what you got to do. You just download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's, again, use the code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Kwani.
Thank you. As we said, it is 2025. So let's talk New Year's resolutions for the Jays. The first one, you guessed it, Jason Tatum. What should be his New Year's resolution?
What you got, Gary?
Wow.
Yeah. Heavy.
To step his game up to become a legitimate MVP candidate. Right now, he's in that third or fourth category. You know, he's had a good season. I'm not ripping the season, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the front runner, and he's probably going to win this thing unless people are going to go vote for Jokic again, because Jokic's having another amazing year. But Jason is to up his game to that one level or two to get up to where he can carry this team at times to just be that guy. And I know that's what he wants. And I think he's had a good season. No, I'm not criticizing the season. I'm not saying he's had a bad season, but just be that impactful defender. He's been very good with the rebounding. The three has been here and there. He struggled at times, but he's been better than he was a little bit during the playoffs last year. But just be that guy, like for a 40-game stretch. Like just say, okay, this is my league. I'm taking this award and carry the Celtics to the playoffs and try to get that number one seed, but also give himself a legitimate shot to win the MVP. That's my resolution for Jason Tatum.
You know what? I hear you, Gary. I do. And you're coming in loud and clear. But for Jason Tatum, the resolution is to just be better at everything. If you are going to be the MVP.
You know what I just said?
He did not hear you loud and clear.
Here's the thing, though. Gary needed like about a good 25 minutes.
Kwani, your dad is here.
He's not. He was here.
Dad's not there. Like maybe you would say something, and your dad would be like, "No, this is what I said." You'd be like, "The dad, I just said that." No, you didn't. Yeah. It's my idea.
It happens to Meg a lot in Family Guy.
Yeah, like
I am saying with a greater level of eloquence. So just sit back and relax, son.
All right, I'm gonna sit there. Go ahead.
I guess nothing has changed in the new year.
Tatum has to be better at every aspect of his game. And it isn't because he needs to be MVP. It isn't because he needs to show he's top 5 Tatum. It's because the only thing that Tatum has been clear and undeniably focused on is winning a championship. He has to be better at everything because he's the best player. He is their best player. I know Jaylen Brown is Eastern Conference Finals MVP, NBA Finals MVP. Jaylen Brown showed up when
NBA Player of the Year.
Exactly. I mean, he's got mad accolades. But if we're being honest and we're keeping it 100, Tatum is their best player. And Tatum has to be better in every aspect of his game when it matters most. And he hasn't been that in the past. And that's why, for me, the resolution for him for this calendar year is to be better in every aspect of your game, because you are not in a position where you can just be cool and comfortable with anything that you're doing right now. You have to have the mindset that I got to get better at everything. Boom.
It's interesting you both say Tatum's the best player, but the numbers and accolades are pointing at Jaylen being the best player. Even though I hate that we pit them against each other, that's besides the point. But
well, let's put it this way. If you were starting a team from scratch and you had one spot and it was between Jason or Jaylen, I'm taking Tatum.
I'm taking Jaylen. Who are you taking, Gary?
Wow.
Let's be divisive in the new year. I'm kidding. No.
If I had a draft, I'd probably take Jason because he's a little better at rebounding. He's a little better with the assists or that type of thing. If you want a better all-around player.
Which is why
Jaylen's working on those things. So I don't like to pit the two against each other.
Yeah, me neither.
Jason's asked to do different things than Jaylen is. But Jason has become, he's had an incredible, he's averaging 28, 9 rebounds, 5.5 assists. He's had a very good year. His free throw shooting is taking a dip.
That's been surprising.
He's missed 4 free. He's usually 84% career. He's 79. He missed 4 free throws yesterday.
Yeah, 7 for 11. Yep.
Yeah, like he's on a free throw slump a little bit, but other than that, he's had a good year. But people are going to look and say, well, Shea, 1, they're winning, and 2, he has just been incredible. So we'll see when the two match up in a couple of days on Sunday in Oklahoma City, Sunday afternoon. But to me, Jason is just a better all-around player. But Jalen can get you that 40-point game. He can get you those nights. He's just such a dog. So
I think it's a mentality thing too. The fact that he has been told he's not the best, I think has pushed him over the years to continue to get better, which is why I think being the underdog is actually good for him, because he continues to prove like, oh no, I can be in this conversation. I can at least be comparable to Tatum in those talks, which makes it fun for us, honestly.
Yeah, and the thing about Jalen, look, if the worst case scenario is you got one spot and you stuck with Jaylen Brown, you're gonna be all right.
Right.
Your squad is straight, and he's Jalen is he's just a really good player, which I think he's the next up the bat on the resolutions list. Is he the next Jay, right?
Yes, he is. Okay. Jaylen Brown. You set it up perfectly.
Since I'm flapping my gums about your boy Jalen, I'm gonna officially make that's Kwani's boy. That's Kwani's boy, Jaylen Brown. You can do worse. The thing about Jalen, if the one resolution I would have for Jaylen Brown for this year is to just ratchet up his level of locked inness. I think there are times where he can be just not as locked into everything he should be locked into. And that's when you're reminded as to why people have doubts from time to time about him. Sometimes I think defensively he doesn't lock in how he should. Other times I think he doesn't recognize when he's handling the ball. There's 3 defenders in the paint waiting for you. You might want to, pass the ball to someone else because there's at least 1 or 2 people open. Yeah. Just being a little bit more locked into what he has to do to be great, I think is the one resolution I have for him. He's not by no means is he a bad player now, but there's a level that he still can get to, or a couple levels I think he can still get to. And for him to do that, I just think he needs to be a little bit more locked in more often than he is right now.
That's very fair.
Yeah, Jalen, I would say my resolution would just to be to tighten up some of the weaknesses. The free throw shooting, although 73.4% this year, it's a little bit above his career average. But just become a better, more consistent free throw shooter, especially in those clutch moments. Cut down on the turnovers. And Jalen, he's averaging more points this year because he's taking more shots. He's averaging 24.4. This year he averaged 23 last year, but he's shooting 46% from the field. Last year he shot almost 50. So that's because 1, he's shooting more threes, but he's shooting lower percentage from threes. And 2, he's not been as good as at the rim and on the floaters on the 2-point shots.
Right.
53% on twos. He was 57% last year on 2. So just some of those little things. I think for Jalen to be like a top 10 player, right? Because I think he's in the top 15. To get to that top 10 plateau, maybe 7, 8, whatever. Because, you're going to have the Giannis and Jokic and Luka and Jason.
The defaults.
Huh?
The defaults. Within the top 10. Yeah,
you're gonna have guys who are already, it's hard to crack the top 5 at this point. But to get to this, Jalen needs to tighten up on the little things. It's not the big things. Like Sherrod did point out, his defense. Yes, become a more impactful defender, and I think he's working on that. But also be more efficient at the rim, better from the 3-point line. 33% is not a good average to shoot. Although he's taking a career high 7 a game, second career high 7 threes a game. And then also the free throw shooting. When you get fouled, you want the crowd, your teammates to have confidence you're going to knock them down.
Right.
And there's times where Jalen will just kind of miss two, especially sometimes in some key moments where he'll just, I'm thinking even in the Indiana game, early in the fourth quarter, he missed two free throws.
Yeah.
And it's just like he's got to, and it's not technique, it's concentration. You know, flipping them up there, then, I missed the first. And then sometimes doing a little too much and then trying to guide it to the rim. Like there's got to be a constant motion, a constant, like every time where people, go through their little rituals when the free throw shooting, they lock in, or Derek White does this. So it's like you got to have the same thing all the time and take the same amount of time and just take a deep breath. If not, that's what makes shooters like Giannis and those guys inconsistent because they don't always do the right techniques 100% of the time. So for me, for my resolution for Jalen, is just work on the little things, not the big things. Work on the free throw shooting, taking better care of the ball. He's almost at 3 turnovers a game. Take a little bit better care of the ball, and then also be better at the rim on those twos.
All right, the final J who needs some resolutions made for him is Joe Mazzulla. What do you two say?
Gary, come on, Gary. That's your boy. You got to go first on this one. That's your boy. Y'all like that.
Besties.
Kwani, please.
Sorry.
Don't do that. Anyway.
Besties.
Oh, man.
My resolution for Joe Mazzulla is to just be probably a slightly bit more flexible on a few things. Like, I get the 3-point philosophy. I understand it. And now they're taking, 51 a game and that's their thing. But there's got to be other ways to score. And there's got to be a little bit more offensive versatility, a little bit more like just, okay, this ain't working. Let me pivot. Versatility, like even defensively. The other night, Christmas night, and Caleb Martin is just knocking down threes. Defend him differently. When it's his night. Yeah. When Maxey, it's his night. Instead of going so much on the numbers and on the percentages and waiting for the numbers to hit the mean, because eventually he's not going to make these, because generally, according to the stat sheet, he doesn't. According to this, he doesn't. That's great most of the time. But there's nights where some guys, it's just it's their night. Adjust defensively. Guard Caleb Martin differently when he's hitting after maybe his 3rd or 4th three. Okay, we've got to pay him a little bit more attention. We can't just keep daring him to shoot. He's going to make them. Even though he only made 18 threes all season, this is his night. I think that sometimes Mazzulla can be too rigid on the numbers. He sticks to the sheet. This is what he usually does, so this is what it's going to eventually happen. But sometimes eventually never happens in that game. It happens the next game. Mm-hmm. You look at guys who kill the Celtics in the next game, they go right back to who they were. You are a special case. You are the Celtics. Teams get up for you. Teams get a good night's rest. They ain't hitting the club. They ain't party hardy.
An encore.
Yeah. They ain't,
it is Boston. That's part of it.
They ain't going to the discotheques.
Discotheques is crazy.
They ain't going to the discotheques the night before the game. They're getting their rest. They know they have to be ready to play the Celtics. And so you have to adjust there are nights when guys are just hitting shots. And that Caleb Martin thing and the whole, we wanted him to shoot those shots. Well, he wanted to shoot them too because he was making them. So y'all agree on that. So sometimes you just got to adjust. I need Joe to be a little bit more versatile in what happens in the game, not before the game, not the last 30 games, during the game. Not saying if some guy hits 2 threes, oh my God, we got to double him and get the ball. But if it's a guy who's got 3 or 4 threes and it's just like, okay, this dude's playing different. This is just different. Adjust as opposed to doing the means and then sticking to that and then losing with that. That's my New Year's resolution for Joe Mazzulla. Just don't be so rigid sometimes with the game plans. Sometimes just be that guy who says, you know what? Okay, we're going to have to change this up a little bit, because I'll show you something. The game after Caleb Martin. Okay, let's go. Caleb Martin, Christmas Day, 8 for 11 from the field, 7 for 9 from the 3-point line, 23 points. You know when she scored the next game? 5.
7. Oh.
5. 5 points.
Yeah.
There you go.
5 points. The next game after that, 7.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He's hit 2 3-point. He's hit 2 3-pointers in 37 and 35 in about 74 minutes of play since the Celtic game. 2. He's hit 2. He's scoring 12 points since then after 23 against the Celtics. So it's a U problem. So that has to be adjusted. There's certain guys that just warm up for the Celtics. They get up to play them. So you can go on what he did the previous games, and he hadn't, and throughout the season he hadn't hit more than 3 threes in a game. So I get it. I get Joe saying, "Well, it's gonna end. He's not gonna." It's not that. You got to adjust sometimes, because you see, it's not like he's on a hot streak it's just you. So Joe needs to understand the Celtics are a team that everybody gets up for. So adjust accordingly when guys like him are killing you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For me, my resolution for Joe is to, and again, this alludes at one of the points Gary brought up, and that is avoid the Cinderella effect. I mean, there are guys like Caleb Martin who have these amazing games, and then poof, they go back to being average to below average. Joe needs to become better at in-game adjustments. That's the one resolution I have for him, is to improve in that specific area. Because if he does that, the Celtics are going to be not just a better team, but they're going to have a better shot at winning another title. You cannot lean on the blueprint that won you a championship last year and anticipate that it will be the same blueprint that will get it done again. That's not how this league works. You have to evolve, adapt, adjust. And I think Joe is making progress in that regard. When you look at just some of the opportunities that some of those guys at the end of the bench are getting this year, which is very different than how things were a year ago. But that being said, his ability to avoid the Cinderella effect that players are having on his team, that has to be something he has to get better at. He has to recognize certain players, even when the numbers suggest otherwise. Certain players are at their best when they play against the Celtics for whatever reason. And I think, need to be a little bit more – Joe needs to be a little more proactive in recognizing that, trying to nip that in the bud before those guys get going. Give them the kind of respect that they aren't used to getting, because the way they play against you is not how they usually play. So that to me, that's the big resolution for Joe Mazzulla as we hit this 2025 year. And before we go any further, want to give another shout out to one of our sponsors, GameTime. It is that time of year when folks all over the world are in a giving mood, and nothing shows you care for that sports fan or that concert goer than an opportunity to see that team or that artist perform live. And GameTime is the perfect place to make that happen. The Celtics, they've got a bunch of road games coming up here, and if it happens to be in one of your cities, check out the GameTime app and see if you can get a really good price ticket to see your favorite team, whether it's the Celtics or someone else play. And again, with the GameTime app, it allows for really super affordable pricing for great tickets at rock bottom prices. One of the other really cool things I always love about the GameTime app is that it has all-in pricing that shows you the total price before you get to checkout. And you get a panoramic view of your seats before you get to checkout. So not only do you know what you're paying before you have to pay, but you also know the sight lines that you will be having once you get into the arena to see whatever event that you're looking to check out. And all you have to do is download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's download the app, create an account, and use the code CLNS for $20 off. Terms apply. What time is it? Game time.
All right. Well, game time. We'll transition from there. On the 3rd, the Celtics will be playing the Rockets. But the Rockets recently had a little bit of turmoil themselves. I'm sure you both saw it. If you haven't seen it, you can find it online. Miami and Houston, the end of that game had a lot going on, and a lot of suspensions and fines were administered as a result. I'll break them down for you. Amen Thompson plays for Houston. He had got a 2-game suspension. Terry Rozier, 1-game suspension plus a fine. Jalen Green, Houston, he gets a $35,000 fine. Tyler Hero gets a $25,000 fine. Ime Udoka, former head coach of the Celtics, also gets a $50,000 fine for verbally, abusing a ref and not leaving the court in a timely manner. But all that to say, a lot went down in that game. Tensions were high. What did you two think about that entire sequence of events, really?
The person I felt really bad for was Tyler Hero.
Yeah.
And I felt bad for Tyler Hero because Tyler basically got tossed to the ground. Mm-hmm. And then here come the league saying, give me 25 G's, fool. It's like, damn.
You got embarrassed and you got to pay.
You got embarrassed, tossed to the curb, and then I got to come out with 25 G's? I felt bad for him because at least now Terry Rozier, if you go back and you look at the video, Terry got his money's worth. Terry got his money's worth. Yeah. If you're going to be suspended for a couple games and going to have to come out of the pocket,
get a lick in.
Do what Terry Rozier did. That's how you're going to get your money's worth.
We don't condone violence, though.
We don't condone violence, but if you are going to be violent, then you know what, and you're going to have to pay a price for that. At least get enough bang for your buck. You know what I mean? There is, to me, that it's one of the biggest pet peeves coaches have when they get like texts is when they get a tech and they did not get their money's worth. Mm-hmm. If they just said like maybe one smart aleck comment and they get a tech, it's like, damn, I gotta come out of the pocket for that. Let me ask an Ime. As we know, Ime has a certain kind of about him. And I could easily see Ime not doing a whole lot to get under the ref's skin. Because when you look at the replay, like it seemed that Ime was like looking for clarification on what the heck just happened. And I just remember him saying something to the ref, and the ref looking at him was like, beep, bye-bye Ime. So maybe he said the magic word, but I think it was probably the tone that he used more so than the actual words. But the bottom line is this. Houston has got some dogs in them, and it starts from the top with Ime. Mm-hmm. And they are one of the few teams that truly is about that life. In fact, Terry Rozier probably should be on Houston Rockets right now. He would be a better fit on their team than he is in Miami.
Yeah.
He is more built the way Ime type player than others. And so, the bottom line is this. Houston is a feisty team. They are not backing down from no one. And they felt, that Miami was just trying to, embarrass them a little bit. And they weren't trying to have that. Mm-hmm. Even if it doesn't have to be, this superstar player. They are clearly a team that is willing to fight literally to be one of the best teams in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sherrod said a lot of it. I mean, Hero kind of got thrown like a rag doll.
And come out of pocket for $25,000.
Yeah, Amen Thompson or Amen Thompson. I think it's Amen Thompson. Just kind of snapped. I mean, it seemed like from looking at the game, like Houston led most of the way, and then Miami made this fourth quarter run. And caught him, and Hero was kind of getting buckets, and I just think there was a level of frustration there. And then, like Sherrod said, Rozier looked at what happened. He was about to inbound the ball, then he was just like, "Oh, fight!" Boom! And he just jumped right into it, like he had no hesitation, or whatever. But it's just one of those things. These guys, I mean, we talk about the jersey swapping and these dudes all playing AAU. Oh God. Scary Terry sandals. That's what we needed. That's our life. we talk about the jersey swapping and these guys are too close and all the old heads, the Rick Mahorns and Charles Barkley's, them dudes are too nice to each other and they hanging out after the game. And then we can't complain when these dudes go at each other because that's kind of how it was back in the day. And, and so I don't think this needs to be celebrated, but I do think that there needs to be more like guys who just say, you know what, be upset about things and don't no, you're not going to do this. And that's what I think the Celtics should be. Like the one thing that Marcus Smart brought was like, y'all ain't getting away with this. Like Marcus was down to throw hands or get in somebody's face. And that's why I think sometimes they need to be a little bit tougher in that sense, knock somebody on their butt when they're, boasting or, when Tyrese Maxey yells at the bench, get this dude out of here when he's talking about Sam Howell talking mess to the bench. Like there needs to be somebody who's like, all right, I got you, bro. I got you. Do that again. And, and I just think this is kind of indicative sometimes. So I'm not saying fights are not good, but it's good to see some of these young guys go at each other and not all be buddies and signing each other's shoes and swapping jerseys. And, let's be honest. I mean, it's just, we think the NBA is too chummy and people, oh, well, this is why people don't watch the NBA. Like, no, I mean, it's like there's some guys that are willing to throw hands and willing to defend their teammates. And I think that's good. So I don't think it's good to fight, but I also think, and I don't think it's also not good to push a guy or try to hurt him when he's getting in your ass in terms of buckets. Like sometimes it's not your night. Sometimes, Tyler Hero can get buckets. Okay. He scored on many of a player. Okay. That's what he does. That's all pretty much what he does. It's not like he's defending nobody or shut nobody down on that side. His job is to score. And there's going to be nights where the shot is not going down. We've seen Jason do it, Jalen do it. We've seen Derek White get 30 points. Like sometimes it's your night. You can't get all upset when some dude is busting your ass. So, but I thought it was good to see that some of these guys aren't always partying and going to the discotheque with each other and swapping shoes and trading jerseys.
All right, 2 more notes to storylines to follow around the NBA. The first one I want to get to is the Lakers. They acquired Dorian Finney-Smith for D'Lo. Good or bad move or meh move for the Lakers? Good, bad, or meh for the Lakers? What do you think?
What do you think, Gary?
Meh. I mean, everybody blames D'Lo, and and D'Angelo Russell's a guy who is very indignant. He's just a guy. Like he's one of those dudes that was like a major prospect as a high school player, and he's a one and done at Ohio State. And, he comes into the league and now people just don't associate him with winning. He's just a guy who people think, the whole thing he got into years ago with Nick Young and kind of ratting him out.
Yes.
And that didn't help his reputation. And then the one year, he played all-star ball level and he made the all-star game when he was with the Brooklyn Nets. So he's back there. But, D'Angelo just isn't a winning player. And now, it's one thing. Oh, he's a young guy. Well, he's 27 now. Like that's kind of who you are. Mm-hmm. Maybe down the road, he gets to a winning situation. He becomes a better, less selfish player and a more smart, more intelligent player on the floor with his IQ. But it's just kind of indicative of just the disappointment that guy got a number 2 overall pick. I mean, that dude's supposed to be a cornerstone somewhere. Him, Brandon Ingram. You look at the Lakers, the guys that they took and they wasted pretty much. Brandon Ingram, D'Angelo Russell, Julius Randle, and those guys have had nice careers and things like that, but none of them have been like that guy. Although, Randle's made a couple of all-star games, but Russell is blah. And then, is Dorian Finney-Smith going to make them a championship team? Absolutely not. Like, they need something else. Like, they just got LeBron, who happy birthday to LeBron. I'm even being funny when I say it. Happy 40th. It's amazing what he's done. 40th birthday, still playing at a high level. But I watched some of the game last night against Cleveland. Like, he was just like, I'm going to pass tonight. Like, I don't have the energy to be like 40 and 20 LeBron anymore, right? I don't have that energy. Like, I'm going to distribute. If I need to score and we need a bucket, I'm going to attack the rim with my size and get to the rack and get to the free throw line and score. But I'm going to set y'all up. And they were kept missing threes, and, Cleveland ended up pulling away. But they're just him, AD, Austin Reeves is a nice player, Hachimura. Like, they're just a bunch of guys. Like, there's nothing that says championship team, even with Dorian Finney-Smith. I mean, you got to make a major move for them to be a championship team. And so I don't see it. I'm meh. Like, that's a nice move. You got D'Lo out of there because obviously I don't think they were a big fan of D'Lo, and D'Lo still never really matured. But, is that going to make y'all a top? Is Oklahoma City like, oh my God, guys, the Lakers acquired Dorian Finney-Smith. We need him. Is that scaring people around the West? No.
Yeah.
No, I mean, he makes them better. A better fit than D'Angelo, but that doesn't move the needle as far as them being a title contender. I mean, the Lakers, to me, best case scenario for them is like making the playoffs, being one of the last one or two teams, like fifth or sixth. Is, to me, that would be a great season for them. I look at them more of a play-in type team because they just don't have the horses to win against some of those top teams in the West. And, LeBron, to be honest, where he's at right now, he should be more of a facilitator. I think that's where he can have the greatest value, a 6'8", 6'9" power forward running your point. I mean, he basically becomes what people thought Ben Simmons could have been. LeBron is that. If he wants to really play the point guard position and play it well, he can do that. But you got to have the right talent around him in order to make that happen. Because right now, you start looking at the way this Lakers team is being constructed, they're going to be a very big, physical, strong, just kind of kick your ass every day type team. But the problem with that is you're in a league that is about the three ball. You're in a league where, you might be able to get some buckets around the rim and you might do some things. But if teams are shooting 35, 40% from three-point range, then the analytics game starts to be played. And then you realize you might be more physical. You might be able to do some things in terms of around the basket, but you're losing by 7, 8 points. And then you look and say, oh, wow, they had like 15 made threes and we had 7. That's what's happening. Well, that's what's going to happen. So the trade is meh, at best. But again, if anything, it just makes them a stronger likelihood of making the playoffs, but not making any noise once they get there.
Okay, final note. Gary, you alluded to it. LeBron James is now 40 years old. Happy birthday to LeBron. But do you both think that he can play another 5 to 7 years? Are you buying that? Are you selling it?
That's what LeBron said. And I am one who doesn't really buy much of what LeBron says because LeBron, he be selling everything and anything.
That's true.
But if he says if he thinks he's got another 5 years in him, I'm buying it. I'm buying it because everything about his career up to this point, he has been able to defy what makes common logical sense. The calendar says that he should be done by maybe another year or two. He should have been done before now. But the way that he has gone about taking care of his body from a physical standpoint is impressive. And there may not ever be an athlete who has invested to the levels of which he's invested in just the maintenance of his body. And so could he play another 5 years? I think he could. Could he play another 5 years at a high level? I don't think so. I think he becomes if he's in the league 5 years from now, that last year or two, he may be on what I would call the Udonis Haslem.
I was just thinking that, yeah.
Where you are on the active roster, but you ain't all that active.
Yeah.
Other than flapping your gums and just being ML car towel waving mode. That's kind of what you're gonna be doing at that point. But can even at that point, you still know that he probably has a good 20, 25-point game in him every now and then. He still could be a guy that can win you a game. And I think as long as he has that going for him, as long as he feels he can do that, he's got a shot. And let's be honest, he got another son coming up the pipeline who was actually a better NBA prospect than Bronny.
Yep.
So maybe he's thinking along those lines, that maybe he, have a chance to play with his other son. And in that situation, rather than tell the team that you with, hey, draft my son, LeBron is going to have to go where his son's going to go, because his son is good enough to where teams are not going to be passing him by just so he can play with his daddy. Mm-hmm. They're going to be like, look, he can help us win games. Yep. So if daddy want to play with son, daddy going to have to come over where son's at, because son, we're not going to let that happen. So that may be part of what LeBron is just thinking when he says he's got another 5 to 7 years in him. Mm-hmm. But I'm buying it, though. I'm absolutely buying he can play in 5 to 7 years.
I don't buy it, not because I don't believe in LeBron, but I just think 46-year-old LeBron out there like that, no NBA player. I think the oldest has been like a 43, where there's like a Robert Parrish or even a Vince Carter. I just think physically that's just taxing for an NBA player. This is not baseball where you can go out there and pitch, be a reliever till you're 45, or you can play, what's my guy who used to pitch for the Indians, the Latino guy, heavyset guy who pitched into his 40s. I have to look his name up, but baseball, you can play well into your 40s. I've seen it. Football, Tom Brady did it at a high level at quarterback, but you're playing one side of the ball. Basketball, you already see kind of the slowdown in LeBron because, obviously, it's 20-plus years. We're not even counting like high school. 25 years all on your limbs, your legs, your ankles, all of the body. Bartolo Colon is what I'm talking about. Sorry, it came to my mind. But you're talking about constant pounding, playing with guys literally now half your age. Like, that's a lot, man. That's a lot. And I just said, it would have to be on a limited level. Okay, LeBron, you're going to play 40 games. Like, do I think if LeBron was on an abbreviated schedule, a 40-game per year schedule where you don't have to travel, okay, you can play only home games and you get plenty of rest, do I think he could play 4 or 5 more years? Yes, on like a certain limited program.
Low management, yeah.
Yeah, like serious, okay, you're playing 45 to 55 games a year. You're missing 30 games right out the back. You're just not going to play. Mm-hmm. Yes. So I think he can play till he's 43, 44. But eventually the slowdown, and I'm not saying we're seeing a slowdown, but eventually he's going to hit a wall like everybody does, where just your body, you can get out there and look good and your body just says no. Like you look great.
That's real.
And we, and I don't know, people might think that fight was fixed, and I probably think it was shady, but like the Mike Tyson, look at him, look at like old Mike. No, like he is old Mike. Yeah. Like he doesn't look like old Mike, he is old Mike. Mm-hmm. And he just, his body wouldn't allow him to do what his mind was telling him to do. And that's the thing. It becomes where your body says, no more, man. So could he play till he's 47? I said on a very limited schedule where he's getting all this $1 million treatment to preserve his body and all that. I could think 4 or 5 more years, but not 7. No.
Very, very fair. We'll see. That's all to be determined. But before we wrap, I do want to remind you all about the Big 3 podcasts being nominated for the Podcast Sports Awards, the best basketball podcast category. So all you have to do, if you haven't done so already, is go to sportspodcastgroup.com/shortlist category, and you can vote for us to win the best basketball podcast. You still have time. January 13th is when the voting closes, and they'll announce the winners online on January 30th. So we still have a few more days for you to get your vote, rock the vote, and tell your friends as well. But that's all for this episode, the first episode of 2025 of the Big 3 NBA podcast. For Sherrod Blakely and Gary Washburn, I'm Kwani Lunis. Happy New Year. We'll be back next week.